start with a little story today. I was working in the construction industry, and we're using a forklift, working on the task, and my boss was working really hard. He's sweating, he's having a hard time, just having trouble with this task, and I said, hey, why don't we try this a little bit different way? I have an idea that maybe we'll make this easier on you. He said, well, we've been doing it this way for 20 years. So I said, why have you been doing it wrong for 20 years? That's a common problem with all issues in society. We get stuck doing things one way, and it's hard to change that. It also happens in water conservation. We've been promoting the same things for years and years. I've been hearing the same solutions since I was a little kid. Now, with water conservation, such a big issue, and the future of our water supply in doubt, we need to make some changes to our water conservation strategies to ensure the future of our supply. We need to take a new approach. Now, I've done some research on human motivation that will give us some insights into why current strategies are not effective enough moving forward, and some changes that we can make. So first, we'll look at why conservation is such an important issue and why the efforts are failing. Then I'll propose some solutions to the problem, and following that, we'll address some of the common criticisms of these solutions. So first of all, as I've said, our strategies for water conservation are not effective enough. With the population growing dramatically every year, the current resources we have are going to be stretched thinner and thinner. So we need to address how much of this water we're using. Now, according to the BBC, this lack of water could lead to some huge problems in the future. While it's not known exactly what's going to happen when nations begin to compete for freshwater resources, none of the possibilities are appealing. First off, there could be further disease spread because people start drinking dirty water when fresh water is not available. There could be armed conflict over strategic resources. So none of the outlooks are good if we don't fix this problem. Now, why are the current strategies not working? First of all, there's no real accountability for people who waste water. The water bill comes to your house, nobody else reads it. The water meter is underground, nobody knows how much water is wasting. So there's no accountability for people to address this issue. Now, also, there's not enough incentive financially to change our behavior. One of the common ideas in water conservation is save money, or save water because it will save you money. But that's really not enough because of the structure of our current water plan. Currently, I get a bill for water, and if I use less than 1,000 gallons, it's $38 roughly. If I use over 1,000 gallons, it's $42. It's not a huge difference. It's not going to make people change their behavior. Now, the reason that this is such a close bill from one usage to another is that 90% of the bill is flat rates and taxes. In addition to that, the little bit that is based on usage is minuscule. According to figures from the Denver Water website, and then as reported in the One World, One Water newsletter, people pay about ½ cent per gallon for water. So if you turn on that faucet and just let it run, it really doesn't cost much. Now, these issues come into play in the theory of reasoned action that was proposed by Martin Fishbane and Isaac Asimov in the 1970s. Now, this is related to just about all actions that humans perform. There's a couple of main factors. One of them is what other people think about what you're doing. And another one is your incentive to behave in a certain way. So we've already seen that accountability, so what other people think, isn't there. Monetary incentive isn't there. So how do we fix this? Also, in the newsletter of Oh Wow, they say we need to come up with creative solutions. So I'll propose 2 solutions. First off, to address accountability. Make water consumption numbers public knowledge. Not only should neighbors be able to look up and see how much water is being wasted in their community, but the meter, or at least a display of how much is being used, should be above ground. This has 2 effects. Number 1, competition. We're a competitive society. Games, academics, it all has competition. So if you're in a drought and we're promoting water conservation, neighbors see how much the other neighbor is using, they want to be the one to save the most water. So that gives some incentive. And then also accountability. Nobody wants to be seen as the one who's wasting copious amounts of water in a severe drought. So if the neighbors can see that, you're less likely to perform that action. Secondly, we need to change the structure of the water billing system. Whereas now it's 90% based on flat fees and barely on usage, we need to make it primarily based on usage and charge more for it. But now this runs into problems, and critics have something to say about raising the price of water. The first point that people will make is that increasing the price of water causes a problem for low-income families. First of all, with the changing of the structure, a family that's using the necessary amount of water isn't going to see an increase because the flat fees have reduced and it's based on usage. In addition, though, it gives that low-income family the possibility of saving money. Because if they're able to implement strategies for saving water, their bill will be less. So it creates an opportunity to actually impact them in a positive way. The second point I'll address is people say that if you raise the water rates, it's preferential treatment to higher income levels because they're not worried about saving water, so they can use all that they want and just pay the bill. 2 problems with that. First of all, people don't get rich by wasting money. So in this case, if they're wasting water, they're wasting money. Secondly, higher income level families have the resources to implement water saving strategies, better appliances, landscaping that's water efficient. So there again, it's not preferential treatment. They'll actually save more water and are have incentive to do that, to save money. So, as anyone would agree, if you say that water conservation is important, that we will need water for the future, people are going to agree with that. But our current water conservation efforts are not significant enough, are not sufficient enough to ensure the future of our water supply. So we need to make creative changes, look at our strategies differently. Instead of putting up posters telling people to save water, we need to start working at the administrative level, petitioning Congress to allow the possibility of changes to the infrastructure of the system that can lead to positive change at the consumer level. So first, I told us how current efforts are not sufficient enough, why they don't work, how we can fix them, and then I addressed some of the common problems that people propose in relation to those solutions. But we need to start making changes and saving water, because water is worth much more than a half a penny. As Benjamin Franklin said, when the well runs dry, we'll know the value of water. So let's do our part. Thank you.